Welcome to the MS&Me Radio Network, a division of the Multiple Sclerosis Global Support Network. The following program broadcast is an original creation by the broadcast entity. Discussion within the following broadcast should be used for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice or consultation. Before considering application of any broadcast content in the following program, please consult your healthcare provider. If you feel you are having a medical emergency, please contact your local health services for immediate assistance. MS&Me Media and the Multiple Sclerosis Global Support Network do not guarantee or warrant the accuracy of information in the broadcast to follow. The Multiple Sclerosis Global Support Network provisions broadcast services to program hosts. Information discussed in the broadcast does not necessarily reflect the views, opinions, or goals of the network and are solely those of the show broadcast host. Should you wish to host a broadcast, please visit our website at msmemedia.com and submit a request to become a program host. We thank you for listening to the MS&Me Radio Network. Enjoy the show.
Hi everyone, it's Rebecca Naylor, health coach with Chronically Well Club, celebrating 20 years living with multiple sclerosis in remission ever since my diagnosis with relapsing remitting MS back in 1997 at the age of 17. So this year marks the 20-year anniversary of my diagnosis, and I'm still going strong. I've really been doing everything I can over the past 20 years, an amazing journey really, to try and manage this illness the best I can naturally, and to really focus on the things within my lifestyle and within the discipline of functional medicine that are within my control. I created Chronically Well Club as a way to work as a health coach with other people in the MS community and really get the message out there that it is possible to discover that you have an innate power to heal. Your body knows how to heal itself when we get out of our own way. And I really want to help people to recreate their lives. So I've developed something this year in order to answer the question, how did you do it? And my answer is something that I call the 8 Keys protocol. So there are 8 areas of my life that I think are very, very important to pay close attention to and to manage and focus on to keep myself in remission and strong and healthy. So those 8 things are diet, toxins, emotions, environment, movement, cognition, gut, and mindset. Mindset and belief, so very, very important. So I'm going to be talking about a number of these different keys throughout my various episodes. And today I'm going to be talking quite personally about something that I'm going through right now, and specifically in reference to a medical appointment that I had this morning. I'm going to be talking about emotions. I'll be talking about environment, cognition, and also mindset. These are all related. Really, all of the keys are related. It's impossible to separate them because we are one, right? We are one being, one entity. So I guess what I want to start by talking about is the journey that I'm going through at this particular point in time. So if you have been following either my radio show, Chronically Well Club, or if you've been following my video blogs that I do on Facebook or YouTube, you'll know that I'm in a really interesting transition in my life, a big career transition. So I've been a public high school teacher for the past 14 years, and I went straight from elementary school to high school to university to teachers college to teaching. So I have been in a public education institution every year of my life since I was 4 years old, and here I am now 38 years old. Wow, that's a lot. So big change for me, I have just left teaching. So today, as I record this, it is September the 27th, and my last day of being in a public high school as a teacher was September the 5th, which was to be the first day of school this year. I've been in the process over the past year of really looking at recreating my life. I had come to the awareness that without a doubt, teaching was making me sick. Teaching was not the right environment for me to be in. It was a very stressful environment that caused a lot of toxic emotions, didn't leave me with any energy or strength to take care of things like movement or diet. My gut health got out of whack. It was affecting my mindset and belief. Everything was really just completely out of whack. And the catalyst for that was teaching. That was the trigger, I should say. The trigger for all of those things that were so challenging for me was being a teacher in the current high school environment, which is a very, very stressful job. I feel like unless you are a teacher, or maybe you're married to a teacher, or have someone in your close family who's a teacher, it's really difficult to understand the demands that are put on people in the education profession today. People who do not have chronic illnesses are falling like flies. So who was I to think that even with a chronic illness, that I wouldn't have difficulty, right? So finally, this September, I decided enough was enough, and I put in an application for long-term disability. I'm now in the process of waiting for that application to be approved, and it's a very, interestingly, it's kind of a stressful place to be, waiting for that application to be approved. And I know that it will. I hope that it will. But it's a little bit stressful having that in the air. So as of last week, I no longer have an income while I wait for that to be approved. And with most cases of MS, it's pretty cut and dry. My representative at the school board told me that with cases of multiple sclerosis, it's normally very simple, clear diagnosis, clear MRI, not clear, I should say, because of course it would have lesions, but clearly depicting the lesions in an MRI, and approval for long-term disability can happen pretty quickly. However, I feel like maybe my application might take a little bit longer because I suppose I'm in a bit of a gray area here, because technically I'm in remission. I look healthy. I can still walk, I can still talk, I can still do lots of things. I just can't teach. The demands of the job are just too stressful for me. And with my MS, as it is the same for many of you probably listening, my MS is triggered by stress. Like immediately and directly when I am in a stressful situation, in a conflict, or even just in a situation with a lot of sensory overload, lots of noise, lots of people demanding my attention, flashing lights, movement. It's very, very difficult for me to multitask and take it all in. And I get a number of different symptoms, things like brain fog, a slowing down of my thought processes, memory difficulty finding words. I get some really extreme weakness in my muscles, especially my back muscles, which causes me back pain, and my leg muscles, so it becomes very difficult to walk or even to stand up sometimes. I get neuropathic pain, which, if you're not aware, is the kind of pain that is not really there. It's sort of your brain just thinking it's there. Really fun. Can feel like an itching, a burning, a tingling, an aching, all sorts of fun stuff. So I get symptoms like that. And then also, of course, there's the difficulty with bladder and bowel control and the constant stress that teachers have of seriously just not being able to go to the bathroom. Can we just stop and talk about this, people? Have you ever thought about how hard that is for a teacher? For 76 minutes, you are legally not allowed to leave the people in your classroom unattended. You're legally responsible for everything that happens to them. You're not even supposed to leave the classroom to go to the bathroom. And if you do have to go to the bathroom, you have to phone the main office, have them radio a hall monitor, wait for the hall monitor to be available, and walk their way to your classroom, and then you can go pee. So when you have MS, that's kind of not really an option for a lot of us. Urgency and frequency with bladder is one of the most common symptoms of MS. And for me, it can come on literally suddenly. I can be in the middle of a sentence teaching, and then it's like, I gotta go. Like I literally gotta run out of the classroom. I'm gonna pee my pants. And so the stress of having to occasionally leave my classroom unattended and worrying that something might happen while I'm gone, combined with the stress of the fact that it might happen at an inopportune time when it's dangerous for me to leave, I mean, that was a constant stressor as well. So there are just so many reasons for me why teaching was making me ill. The topic of this radio show today is really about this whole idea of what it really means to be in remission, and what is the difference between a doctor who studies the brain as a neurologist and a doctor who studies the brain as a psychiatrist. So this is a really interesting divide. I feel like it has been for the past 100 years a very clear divide, not just with the brain, but with every part of the body. We have a medical system of specialists, right? We have dermatologists who specialize in this on the skin, cardiologists specializing in the heart. We have neurology with the brain. We have podiatry with the feet. I mean, it's just every imaginable part of the body has a specialist. And each of those people are experts in their individual body part. But when it comes to the whole system and how this system communicates as a whole, well, wow, you just have to watch one episode of something like Grey's Anatomy on television to see some of the dramatized internal struggles between different disciplines. So what happens when a person has a heart issue and a liver issue and the two doctors disagree on a treatment protocol? You know, which part of the body trumps the other part of the body? Like it's crazy the way we've segmented ourselves for the sake of procedure. It's really quite wild. So I've had to think a lot about this because my struggles with multiple sclerosis are combined with my struggles with anxiety, quite severe anxiety, which tends to run in my family on one side. So on one side of my family, I have a genetic predisposition to high levels of anxiety. On the other side of my family, I have the predisposition for multiple sclerosis. My father had multiple sclerosis, as does my uncle. So I've got the combination. Fun. Now I want to pause here and say that my life is awesome and I have so much to be grateful for, even just living in this country of Canada. Can we just pause and say how awesome Canada is? The political freedoms, the opportunities that we have, the beauty of the landscape, the safety, the legal protections, even geographically, we're protected from a lot of parts of climate change, right? We're not on the earthquake fault lines. We don't get hurricanes or floods here. Well, some parts of Canada do get floods, but here in southwestern Ontario, we don't tend to get those kind of things. So there are many, many reasons I have to be grateful in my life, and I do express gratitude on a daily basis. I do have challenges though, and two of those challenges are my predispositions to multiple sclerosis, an autoimmune condition, and anxiety, which is technically a psychiatric issue. So my challenge with my long-term disability application is that I had to submit case notes from several of my doctors. And one of the notes from my neurologist is saying that I'm clinically in remission and that during the 10-minute interval when she evaluated me in a completely non-stressful situation on a day when I hadn't gone to work, I was able to reasonably well pass my neurological exam. And my MRI does not show any new lesions. The ones that I had previously have disappeared or are shrinking. So clinically, I'm in remission. And yet, I'm applying for LTD because of what she terms the psychiatric factors and the fact that the stressors and my apparent ability to manage those stressors is triggering the MS symptoms. So neurology as a discipline, it's very much about data. It's about measuring things you can see on an MRI, diagnosing, prescribing pharmaceuticals, that type of thing. It's a very, very scientific discipline, as opposed to psychiatry, dealing more with mental health, which is what you would consider to be a very abstract discipline, because the entire field of mental health is not something that can be measured by an MRI, a blood test, or any other scientific tool, really. A huge amount of mental health research is anecdotal, which means it's basically people just describing their experiences. And it is subjective, which means it's one person's interpretation of what they see and hear as opposed to a number on a lab report. So those are two of the main differences between neurology and psychiatry. And I feel like for the past 100 years, there's been a real divide where psychiatrists felt that neurologists were missing a big piece of the puzzle and were disregarding emotions and the huge impact that they have, whereas neurologists considered, I'm generalizing here, but neurology in general kind of saw psychiatry as a soft science, right? Because it didn't have the hard data. And I'm really thankful that finally, for the first time in my lifetime, and from what I understand, the first time in history, really, the two disciplines are starting to come together. So I want to talk about this new interesting specialty. So now we're starting to see all those little compartmentalized medical departments are starting to combine together again, because we're starting to recognize that you really can't study the nervous system without studying the cardiovascular system, and you can't study neurology without studying psychiatry, and the endocrine system, that's very connected to the immune system. So we're really seeing connections happening, and we're having new specialists be created where specialists are sort of weaving together some of these different specialties. So there's a new specialty that's known as Psychoneuroimmunology, or PNI. Sometimes it's also referred to as let me see if I can get this right. Psychoendocrine immunology, PENI. So, or there's even another one, psychoneuroendocrine immunology. Oh my goodness, I can't even get all of these right. So basically they're a combination of a bunch of different words. So psycho comes from psychology, meaning the study of the psyche, and that is where your psychiatrists come in. We then have neuro for neurology, and that is where your neurologists come in, the ones who study the hard data of the brain. You have endocrine from endocrinologist, and those are the ones who study our hormonal systems. And then you have immunology, the study of the immune system. So to help you understand this, I thought, who better to explain this than good old Wikipedia? So I brought up the Wikipedia page for psychoneuroimmunology, and I'm just going to read the introductory paragraph for what this is, and then I'm going to talk about in detail how this is related to my particular case study. So, psychoneuroimmunology, otherwise known as PNI, is the study of the interaction between psychological processes and the nervous and immune systems of the human body. PNI takes an interdisciplinary approach incorporating psychology, neuroscience, immunology, physiology, genetics, pharmacology, molecular biology, psychiatry, behavior medicine, infectious diseases, endocrinology, and rheumatology. The main interests of PNI are the interactions between the nervous and immune systems and the relationship between mental processes and health. PNI studies, among other things, the physiological functioning of the neuroimmune system in health and disease. Disorders of the neuroimmune system, such as autoimmune diseases, example MS, hypersensitivities, immune deficiency, and the physical, chemical, and physiological characteristics of the components of the neuroimmune system in vitro. And that means going all the way back to before you were born. So basically, that's a whole bunch of big words that I'm going to summarize like this. Psychoneuroimmunology is the interaction of the mind with the body. That's basically what it is finally acknowledging. And I think the key sentence here is where it says the main interests of PNI are the interactions between the nervous and immune system and the relationship between mental processes and health. So we now know that our emotions and our thought processes are not separate from our body. They cannot be separated, right? And this is really what I'm dealing with my LTD application. And I am super, super, super thankful that because I live in a major city like Toronto, I have access to some really amazing specialized healthcare. And when my neurologist back in my evaluation last November recognized that my MS symptoms were not a cause of my MS being active, but the stress, she referred me to somebody who is a neuropsychiatrist, who essentially does this. Somebody who combines the study of psychiatry with the study of neurology and is really on the forefront of a push in the medical community to recognize brain health as one specialty. right? Rather than saying, okay, you study the physical structure of the brain and I'll study the abstract workings of the brain, right? That's neurology and psychiatry. This new discipline wants to bring it together and say you can't have one without the other. The physical structure is a result of the mental processes, okay? And in a way, the mental processes are a result of the physical structure. So it works both ways. And it's very, very important to understand the interaction between these two things. And this is what I'm seeing really happening in my life right now. My MS, the disease itself, is in remission. There's no progression. There has been no progression in 19 years. Yet I continue to experience day-to-day symptoms that fluctuate hand in hand with my stressors and how I am coping with them through my emotions and my mental processes. So I'm very, very lucky that for about the past 6 months, I have been followed by a specialist here in Toronto who is a neuropsychiatrist. And I saw him this morning for an update, and yeah, it was quite emotional. It's challenging. It's challenging when, for example, I had to collect my case notes from my neurologist to hand in for my long-term disability application, and to hear her actually write that my MS is in remission, that her clinical evaluation when she did my neuro exam was essentially clear, and basically saying that my challenges are psychiatric in nature, which is not to say that the MS symptoms I'm experiencing are imaginary. They're very much there, but they're not being triggered by progression of disease. They're being triggered by stress. So one of the reasons why I wanted to share this with you is because I think a lot of people who have MS think that every time they experience any symptom whatsoever, it means that there's a progression of the disease. And I am living proof that that's not true. If one day you wake up and you have a bit of numbing in your arm, yes, that could be because you have a new lesion in your brain or on your spinal cord, but it also could just be that you didn't sleep very well last night, or you had a fight with your significant other, or you're dreading something you have to do at work that day, or maybe you didn't eat very well, or maybe you picked up a virus, or there's something else that's stressing your system. So it's important to remember that we don't need to panic, especially for the newly diagnosed. I understand, I've been there. When you're experiencing symptoms for the first time, you assume that every new sensation means a progression of your disease. And it's really easy to fall into what if this means? And it's something I was talking to my dear friend yesterday that I still struggle with. It was really hot here yesterday in Toronto. We're having a heat wave. I went to the beach at the same day that I ordered my Thanksgiving turkey, which is pretty crazy. And it was so hot that I have heat sensitivity, and so some of my MS symptoms were triggered, and I was having a really difficult time walking and having the strength even to stand up when I was in the heat. And one of the things that I talked to my friend about later was about how each time that happens, it's almost like a little mini flashback to that one time when I was 17 years old that I did actually go fully paralyzed on the right side of my body. And I've only experienced that once, that feeling of complete 100% paralysis. And I know it's different for every person. This is the snowflake disease, but when it happened for me, it was a gradual thing over the course of a few minutes. And when it began as a heaviness and a weakness and a slowness that slowly escalated to the point of full paralysis. So every time I experienced these minor fatigues, at first, for many years, I used to feel a sort of panic. Oh my God, it's happening again, right? But I've had enough experience, and I'm hoping to impart that experience, the wisdom brought about by that experience onto you, to help you understand that it doesn't always mean it's happening again. Sometimes those things can just be residual. They can just be little mini pseudo exacerbations that are just temporary, brought on by stress. And once the stressor is removed, the symptom will dissipate. And that's what happens with me all the time. As soon as the stressor is removed, the symptom will dissipate, either immediately or, if it's a major stressor, within a few days of the stressor being removed. So that's a little bit of an update on what I'm dealing with here. I'm going through a bit of a stressful process of applying for long-term disability, but it's with very good reason because I am determined to recreate my life with a new job, a new career, a new way to contribute to my community and to feel productive and valued by doing something that makes me feel well, by doing something that uplifts me and still allows me to use my gifts. I'll always be a teacher. I will find other ways to use my skills, which I know are highly transferable. And hey, that's what I'm doing right here already. I'm continuing to be an educator, to hopefully share and inspire. And I really hope something that you've heard today spoke to you. And if it did, I would really encourage you to reach out and contact me. You can reach me by email at rebecca@chronicallywell.club. You can also check out my main website at chronicallywell.club, and there you can find links to all sorts of things. My Facebook video blog, Instagram feed. I post all my videos on YouTube, and there are also links there to some really valuable tools that I encourage all people with MS to check out. One is doTERRA essential oils, which have just been amazing for me. Have so many therapeutic healing properties that I just love, and I'd be happy to engage with you about that. And also Vox Life products, which are incredible neurostimulation tools that you wear on your feet, and they stimulate your brainstem and are clinically proven to give you amazing drastic increases in your balance, your strength, your mobility. And I continue to introduce both of these things to people with MS as I meet them, and I'm so pleased with the results that I'm seeing. So yeah, please do reach out. Let me know your story. Let me know if something spoke to you, if you agree, disagree, have a similar or different experience. I do also work as a health coach, so I work with clients anywhere in the world really who have MS and are really ready to discover their power to heal and get going on reclaiming their life. So please feel free to contact me, reach out, and in the meantime, I hope that you will choose to create an amazing day for yourself, whatever that means for you, and really take responsibility to make the choice to be well. Stay tuned next week. I'm hoping that next week I will finally get around to doing part 2 of something I started about a month ago, which was my delving into the book by Gabor Mate, The Hidden Cost of Stress, When the Body Says No. So I'm going to try and finish my part 2 analysis of that book for next week's episode. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, be well, everyone. Talk soon.